This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. If you asked me several years ago about the idea of seeing older games get modern remakes, honestly, depending on the game, it would have been cool to see some of them brought to life. For example, looking at some of the very first Metal Gear games, it'd be cool to see them done in a similar style to say Snake Eater or something like that. As we've seen a large amount of remakes being done, I have generally turned towards the opinion that I don't want them. I want older games to come back for sure, so I am generally pro remaster, something like what Bluepoint did with the Uncharted trilogy on the PS4. They bumped the frame rate and put those great games in one package. But I would never want to see Uncharted receive a remake, honestly either of them. This goes for many other games. I love Siphon Filter and want to see it back too, but I don't want them to remake the first title, just give us a sequel. Another example is Splinter Cell. We don't need a remake, those games are great. We need a remastered collection set and a proper new game. Plus, the huge push by the industry for these remakes shows that we have some studios that seem to be creatively bankrupt. Try out a new IP or maybe make a sequel. So this always had me looking at Resident Evil 4, a game that I never felt needed a remake, but with Capcom remaking their titles, we knew it was all coming. And after just saying that I take issue with remakes generally, I am honestly okay with how Capcom does it, because I tend to think that they do it a bit better. Before we go any further, I want to thank 2Game for providing me with a copy of Resident Evil 4 Remake. The game, along with others, is on sale on their site, and if you use my affiliate link in the description and pinned comment, it will greatly help the channel. Plus, feel free to use my coupon code as well. Now back to Resident Evil. So what do I mean by that Capcom does it a bit better? I think the biggest thing that I really love about how Capcom treats these remakes and games is how they allow both versions to exist and be pretty accessible to gamers. So look at Resident Evil 4, you can buy the original on almost everything. I know this because I pretty much own it everywhere. I absolutely love that game. It has aged like fine wine, the shooting, the tone, even cheese are all still great. It's an example of a title where it is fantastic. You don't need to touch nor fix anything about it. It doesn't really warrant a remake, whereas you could make the argument that the PS1 Resident Evil games could benefit from a visual overhaul because of what the PS1 could do at the time. While I still think those games look great, I love the pre-rendered backgrounds along with their design. When comparing them to the visuals of the original Resident Evil 4, the game even still looks good. A lot of this is why I hesitated for so long to actually play the remake. But then on the flip side of things, like I said, you can pretty much buy the original anywhere, along with the remake. Both are able to stand together. It isn't like in some cases with these new game remakes that the original is then eclipsed, or the remake is easier to obtain than the original. Capcom does a pretty solid job, is that if you want to buy the originals, you can. I mean, you can even see this now with the original Resident Evil trilogy on GOG, as they're coming back slowly now. Capcom, I think, is smart in this respect. They see that they have such a wide audience, and it appears that they want to capture anyone who is interested. So if you're a fan of the originals, then come on over and buy and play these games. Or if you prefer the remakes, we have this nice selection for you too. Or maybe you were introduced to the games on the remakes. Now you can go back and see the originals and see if there's any differences that you like or don't like. Business-wise, I think this is smart. And gaming-wise, I love that this means that the classic titles are preserved and never replaced, with remakes standing next to them with these new additions, or a new twist on a story that we all know. So even if you're not a fan of the remakes, you like parts of them and not all of it, or maybe you love them too, either way the originals are still there as an option. It's a situation of having the best of both worlds, and how Capcom does this, they do a really good job with it. To further my point on the title of this video, I do think that Resident Evil 4 did not need a remake. Again, the game still plays great today, and plus that tone, humor, and even horror is so dialed in that it would be really hard to really capture that specific thing all over again. It seems like lightning in a bottle. Now sure, many Resident Evil titles have that cheesy bravado. I love that stuff. I'm a fan of 5 and a huge fan of the underrated 6, so I love that stuff, but it would appear based on my time I have spent with Resident Evil 4 Remake that there are trying to honor the original game, while also trying to do their own thing at the same time. Try something new with an older classic and see how that works. Do I like it more than the original? Only time will tell, but I don't think that will happen. I could maybe see myself liking the remake on par with the original, but I find it very hard to see this surpassing the original. Like I said, it's pretty cool how it makes you feel like this is all familiar in many ways, and at the same time, totally different. It's like it mixes the nostalgia with the new to create this uneasy freshness to the game, while also even furthering how the game puts you on edge for the experience. Now sure, this might be your first time through Resident Evil 4 in any sense, and you won't have that element, but for many of us that are longtime fans, I think they might share in this. Generally, the game is just a lot of fun to play, and I like that on its own, it's really fun. I do think that there are some missteps that don't hit as good as they do in the original, but as an overall thing, you are getting something really enjoyable here. Plus, playing through Mercenaries as well provides that same addictive instant-like rush that you get from either short-term play sessions or something that hooks you in the long term because of the scoring system. Plus, the level of detail here is just impressive with all the blood, gore, and bullet damage. Weapons have a large amount of weight and impact. I really like the dodge knife pairing system as well. It adds in another element that sort of expands on what we have seen in the original. As I clarify throughout this video, I don't think this was needed, but I cannot deny how much fun I'm having with it, and it can live on standing next to the original too. I do want to use as an example where remakes can definitely be more questionable. Look at, say, the Dead Space remake. Here we have a remake of a title that didn't really need one either. The original plays great, it's awesome, don't touch it. EA was the reason this series was canned and the developers shut down too. Then years later they have a new internal team put together to make a remake of the game and it gets all kinds of praise. As a game, the remake is fun. I really love the lighting in it, but overall it's not better than the original. It makes a bunch of small changes that in many cases don't actually aid the game in any way, but rather hurt it, creating a lesser game overall. Now that's fine, my opinion is that it is a fun game, but very much not a needed title. And it feels kinda scummy to praise EA on that they shut down the original series and developer. It felt like EA was trying to have its cake and eat it too. Now I probably wouldn't be so hard on it if the original trilogy was more accessible to gamers. You can get it on the PC and Xbox, but there's no way to access it on the Switch or the PlayStation, and I don't count that digital cloud gaming as a means to be able to really access those games for the PS3 games on the PS4 and 5. This is where EA should have been smarter and did some form of remastered collection set of the originals with the remake, allow both to be accessible for whoever wants it, or even include the original version on the remake. The Medieval Visual remake did this as an unlockable, and it was a nice touch. Now I have other issues with Capcom as a company for sure. I'm not saying they are this big great company that can do no wrong, but in this instance of their Resident Evil remakes, I like how they provide the classic titles and remake titles together. It's sort of a model that other studios should follow. Plus with Resident Evil, they aren't just making remakes, but rather sequels and new fresh games too, like with Resident Evil 8 and with 9 that they're working on now. Now I open this all up to you. What are your thoughts on the remakes, or even more specifically the Resident Evil ones? Do you like how Capcom does it? Have you played 4? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. And if you're interested in purchasing this game or other PC titles, check out my affiliate link and use the coupon code during the current sale on 2Game. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.